You know, I think the most important thing is people need to realize that everything we tried didn't work.
Absolutely.
And there were things that were better. We had to leave good things and choose the great things.
Absolutely.
We had this relationship with G.R.E.A.T, and we kept it alive.
Absolutely.
And then in the spring of 2013, they came through in a big way for us.
Yes, they certainly did.
We got 3 licenses of G.R.E.A.T software.
Yes.
And in the summer, they sent an engineer down to work with the kids.
Richard, yes.
And some people up above us had taken note of us, and some people at the White House, and then so we're up to this summer, the summer of 2013. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to go to DC and the flight and receiving the award and actually being there?
Chad, it all began with this crazy email, what I thought was a crazy email. I get this email from a Katie Dowd, and it says it's from the White House. And I'm thinking, And she says, I've been nominated for this award. And I'm thinking, this is spam. Now, I'm the IT director for Richmond County Schools, so I get a lot of spam. So I go into the spam filter and I start tracing the headers of this email, trying to determine what domain, what physical IP address, or what IP address this email came from. And it kept pointing back to whitehouse.gov. And I thought, now either this is legit or this spammer is just very, very clever. So I replied to the email, because if I think it's spam, of course you don't reply to it to let them know that it's a legit address. And I replied back to her, and she replied back to me and said, no, this is for real. You've been nominated. And I asked her, I said, well, who nominated me? And she says, well, I can't tell you just yet. You haven't won, but you've been nominated. So I would say about 3 or 4 days later, I get the next email. Congratulations, you have won the White House Champions of Change for Tech Inclusion Award for 2013. And it all began to speed up at that point, Chad, because you remember we were in the middle of the summer of Canetomia. We had kids coming in every week, and it was scheduled for July 31st, which was the second to the last day of the camp. G.R.E.A.T, 3D Systems G.R.E.A.T, they were sending Richard down on the 1st of August to work with the kids.
Which was the last day.
Which was the last day. I was thinking, now could we shut down that day and not do it? And you were looking at me like you're looking at me now, like, Jeff, there's no way those kids are going to be here, so you need to go on up there to Washington, D.C. And I get on the plane, and I land in D.C., and I'm on my way to the hotel, and that night I'm extremely nervous. It is just hard for me to relax because, I mean, this is the White House. And I walk in that morning, and I'm sitting at this table with people that work directly with the president. And you know what I noticed about them, Chad? That they're everyday people like you and me. That they enjoy what they do, they love what they do. And we had these series of discussions with just the champions, and I learned a lot about that there were people passionate about bringing computer science and computer programming back into high schools. There was another gentleman there who wrote a book, Carlos Buenos. He wrote Lorem Ipsum. And I was sitting right beside him, and to listen to the passion that came from him about teaching technology as a skill versus a career or a profession. There were ladies in there from blackgirls.code, Kim Bryant from blackgirls.code. She was passionate about getting more girls into technology. And you and I had just had discussions about that. So there were people in that room that were just as passionate as I was about students learning technology. And it really came together for me when we did the panel. Mm-hmm. And we entered this room and we were up on this stage and there were all these people in the room at the White House. At the White House. At the White House. And these people were here to listen to us and hear what was passionate to us. And if anyone ever goes back and they look at that video on YouTube and they listen to the things that the members of the panel had to say, they'll be moved by it, because when I spoke, I talked about Alexis. You remember Alexis, and I told Alexis's story. So many people came up to me afterwards and said how moved they were by that. And it energized me, Chad. I didn't sleep on the plane ride home because I had to leave the White House, get on a plane, get home. I didn't get home till 1 a.m., but we had to be back here the next morning because Richard was coming. And I remember on the plane ride home that it was a sign for me that you and I were doing the right things, that we were headed in the right direction, and that there were people just as passionate as we were about what they're doing, that we were just doing the right thing. And I accepted the award on behalf of, on your behalf, on behalf of our students, on behalf of Richmond County Schools, and on behalf of the community here in Richmond County. And it was my honor to go up there and tell the world about what's happening in this rural school district in North Carolina.